We talked about active participial phrases, the basic ones. So instead of saying which means, you can transform that to meaning. Right? If you remember the sentence that I gave previously, we see lots of deer that are walking in the woods. Okay, so this is a relative clause, and we can transform it to what? Okay, we can get rid of this, right? We see lots of deer walking in the woods. So that's an active participial phrase, this thing, walking in the woods. The other form that we looked at was while we, or when we walk in the woods, we see lots of deer. Again, this gets transformed into walking in the woods, we see lots of deer. Okay, so this thing is a relative clause. This thing is a subordinate clause. These are your most common modifiers. They both transform in exactly the same way. Just get rid of the subject, get rid of any kind of subordinating conjunction, get rid of any kind of relative pronoun, and just you take the verb and that's it, walking. When we walk,
but
walking.
I think, Darian, in this sentence, when we make it, we have to make sure that in both sentences they have the same subject. Like, for example, when we walk in the wood, maybe did you get me?
Yeah,
we have to move the same subject. We.
Yeah. Yes, because
So
then you've got a misplaced modifier. Yeah, if you don't do that, then you've got what's called a misplaced modifier when it's not clear what the modifier refers to. Yes, you are correct. A very, very common usage is something like this, taking into account, as a doctor, I can imagine you would say this many times, taking into account your age and health condition, I recommend that you avoid flying. Very similarly, considering all the options, I suggest this procedure, not that one.
So what is the original sentence, this for considering all the options?
If we consider, or when we consider.
When, okay. So considering, yeah.
And or if we take into account your age and health. This is more common than the full version. This is not common at all. This is common, considering all the options. So these active participial phrases, these are the most common kinds of participial phrases by far. Given would be a passive version. And given is the same thing as considering. given your age and health, or given your given all the options. I suggest, okay, based on your health history, I suggest. Okay, this would be like the second most common. Now, so we covered these previously. Let's move on to a few others. These are much less common, but nonetheless, they often come up, and there are certain situations where they're quite natural. Having seen. This is a perfect, like it's originally from present perfect, so it's called a perfect active participial phrase. Now, this is my terminology. A lot of grammar books would call this something different, but I'm going to stick to this. So having seen the situation there firsthand, I can tell you we've got a big problem. What is this short for? Like, what would be the full version of this perfect active participial phrase?
I have seen.
That's it. I have seen the situation there firsthand, period. I can tell you we've got a big problem. And that becomes having seen the situation. This is a very common usage. You use it for experiences, and these other examples here, very similar. Having been to Paris, I can tell you the best places to visit. Sylvia, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. What would be the full version of this? Having been to Paris.
I have been.
Yes. And in this last sentence, again, exactly the same type of example. Having worked at Johnson Inc., I can tell you what it's really like to work there. Oksana, what would be the full version of this sentence?
I have worked at Johnson Inc. I can tell you what it's really like to work there.
Good. Having met would be another common one. Having met Brad Pitt, I can tell you he's really nice in real life. I have met Brad Pitt. I can tell you he's really nice. Okay, any questions about this one? Pretty easy?
Yes.
Okay, can
Can
anyone
we,
think?
sorry,
Yeah,
can
go ahead.
do you think that we can use it in task 2 essay, this
Yeah,
having worked,
absolutely.
having seen?
It's a great way to introduce an example.
We can use it in maybe more in the example?
Well, it naturally lends itself to an example.
Maybe instead of the word, for example, having seen the experience of something or anything, and we can talk about it. We'll see. Yeah, this is first time you are telling about this
Or
one.
you could say, having met Brad Pitt, for example, or having been to Paris, comma, for example, comma. This is We've got this perfect passive form, which is not too common. Having been given. What's that from? What would be the non-participle version of having been given? So having been given a scholarship, I attended this prestigious school.
I have been given.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Or I was given. Both are, it could be either.
Or I had been given. It can be.
Yep. In this case, in this particular example that I found, persistence and resilience only come from having been given the chance to work through difficult problems. Persistence and resilience only come from what? From having been given the chance to work through difficult problems. So the function in this particular sentence is as a big noun, but the structure is exactly the same. And by the way, what does persistence mean and what does resilience mean? Sylvia.
Mm, persistence, like constant.
Constant what? It means not giving up. That you persist means keep doing something until you finally get it. Does anyone know resilience?
Being flexible.
Focusing.
Bouncing back from difficulty.
Can you accept difficult situation? I mean, you can adapt to any situation, difficult
Or
situation.
Flexibility.
yes, and bouncing back from a bad situation. She's really resilient. If anything bad happens, she doesn't let it bother her. Or she gets over it very quickly. He's gone bankrupt several times, but each time he has rebuilt his business. He's very resilient. Okay, these ones, passive plus active, and then we've got active plus passive. So the thieves, seen breaking into cars, were eventually caught by the police. What would be the full version of seen breaking into cars?
Have been seen.
If you had to transform this into just a standard clause, what would it be?
Thieves were seen.
Well, the thieves who were seen as they were breaking into cars. I mean, nobody would say this, but this would be the full version.
I want to ask who. We can take it off and do. I know which and that we can do, but who also we can take it off?
Oh yeah, no problem.
Okay. Only when there is comma before it, we can do that. It is not part from the sentence because
It depends on the situation. I'd have to see.
Okay.
So another example, the employee caught stealing was immediately fired. What would be the full version of this? Hint, it's very similar to the previous one. Sylvia?
The employee who was caught.
Mm-hmm. And if we wanted to make the full thing just it's completely the long full version, who was caught as he was stealing, was immediately fired. Okay, so here, this one is probably less common. So being given would be the form. It's often preceded by upon or after. So you'll hear things like, upon being given the award, the actor burst into tears. So they're not going to say, no one's going to say being given the award, they're going to say upon being given the award. It's at the moment when he or she received the award. Upon or after being accepted, upon being accepted into the elite program, the students celebrated. Okay, and also this one is fairly common, after or upon being told. He was ecstatic after being told he would be promoted. He was ecstatic upon being told he would be promoted. This is a really nice quote I found by this famous photographer, very famous photojournalist. Never have I found the limits of the photographic potential. Every horizon, upon being reached, reveals another beckoning in the distance. Always I'm on the threshold. Beautiful. Okay, so what does upon being reached mean? What would be a more simplistic or standard way to say upon being reached?
As soon as I reach.
Very good, very close. As soon as it is reached. When it is reached, or after it is reached. Right? Whatever it is, it's going to be longer than this. This is only 3 words. This is 6 words. This one is 4 words, so this is considered much higher level writing. And I don't want to spend too much time on this. This is more for your information. We will go through these as needed. Some of these can be used for speaking, like they're good, but you're going to see these a lot because they are used quite often, so I wanted to go over them so that you at least recognize them. And you can use them as appropriate when it comes up. All right, any questions about this? I could, if you want to practice using this, I could ask you questions such as, what was one of the best moments of your life? Can anyone answer using this structure? It's not a trick question. Like, just make something up. Like, you won some award, or you got accepted to the program of your choice. Someone told you something that you needed to hear. Upon being told that I've been accepted to Teachers College, I was overjoyed. Okay. Does anyone else have an example they could share? Make it up if you want. Allah?
Upon being told I have been accepted to medical college, I was happy.
All right, good. Good stuff. Well, grammatically correct, okay. Okay.
Can we say upon being passed IELTS exam, I was overjoyed?
Well, hang on a second, because this is passive. So it's a passive construction, so that's not going to work here.
Okay.
So it would be upon
being when you use being when it is passive, otherwise upon passing the IELTS exam. Okay.
Because you pass, right?
Yes, it depends on the verb itself. So told, usually somebody will tell me. So here I can use it as passive.
Exactly. That's why these are called passive, because the original verb is passive voice.
Okay. Upon being graduated, because graduated can use it as passive voice. From university, I was so happy or something.
Yeah.
Upon being graduated.
Okay, so just a note about this one, that's old-fashioned, right? Graduated as passive is an old-fashioned construction. Basically, no one uses this anymore except like old-fashioned pedagogues. There's a debate online about using this, but 99% of people are not aware that this is that this can be passive, so I wouldn't use it. I would say upon graduating.
Okay.
Like,
so
technically you are correct, but I wouldn't use it.
Okay. So graduation, now we use it as active voice.
Yes.
I think in my
cannot
essay
say
today I use it.
Sorry, Dina.
I think in the essay, I'll go back. I think I use it as a passive voice.
Right, and because I know this, I'm not going to mark it wrong.
No, I know, but good to know. Thank you.
Allah?
We cannot say upon being a graduate.
Upon being a graduate. Upon being a graduate. No, the structure is used for things that were verbs, so upon graduating.
Okay.
Upon being given a Ferrari for my birthday, I was overjoyed. Right. This one is common. If you're being asked about your experiences, what's it like living in a tropical country, for example? Or what's it like living in Europe? What's it like living in the United States? Anytime the question revolves around talking about differences between countries, differences in working in different countries, differences in transportation in different countries.
So you could say having lived in Paris.
Yep.
Having lived in wherever.
Tropical places. I can tell.
I can tell you that
That the weather is so hot.
But it can be also in negative form, right? Having.
this is neutral. Negative, positive, depends on the context.
Mhm.
Can you give us an example?
Okay. Having. No.
Okay, I'm just trying.
Having been there. No, having worked. No.
Yeah, that works there. Having been, having bought, having tried.
Mm-hmm.
If you're talking about a restaurant, having tried Burger King, I can tell you it's not amazing.
For example, in the negative form, having not been there, I can't tell you about the.
Okay, good. Not having
Oh, yes. So
been there.
yeah, not having been there. Yeah, thank you.
Not having actually been there, I can't tell you what it's really like. Nice, that's the negative. Not having tried that restaurant, I have no idea if their food is any good. Having visited. If you're talking about cars, having driven a Tesla, I would say,
But Mr. Yan, having visited, you will visit by yourself. So it is having visiting.
No, I visited.
Yes.
Having visited. These are all active. I have
Okay.
seen, I have been, I have worked, I have met.
Okay.
It could also refer to you. I could be talking, like if I were interviewing someone, I could say, like if I know for a fact that you lived in Iraq, you could say, having lived in Iraq, can you tell us about the situation there? Having operated, or having performed this kind of procedure, can you tell me, right? If you're talking to a judge, having tried this kind of case before, if you're asking a question, could you tell me what it's like to... Okay, so out of all of these, probably this one is quite useful. This one and the first two. Okay then. Feel free to post any follow-up questions about this, or if you see any good examples in the Q&A forum.